Winter can be tough. Cold weather, dry air, and seasonal sniffles. That's why I trust Vicks, a brand with over 125 years of reliable relief. Did you know that low humidity during winter, below 40%, can lead to coughing, congestion, and dry, itchy skin? Vicks is the only humidifier brand offering a powerful 1-2-3 combination: a cough suppressant, menthol vapors, and hydrating mist for fast, effective relief. No wonder it's the #1 brand recommended by pediatricians and home to one of the world's most recognizable scents. I love my Vicks Cool Relief Humidifier. It's easy to use with a large tank, rotating nozzle, and filter-free cool mist. Paired with VapoSteam and VapoPads, it turns my space into a soothing sanctuary, easing my cough and congestion while adding moisture to dry winter air. And right now, you can get 20% off of the Vicks Cool Relief Humidifier on Amazon. Just search Vicks VUL600 Cool Relief Humidifier and click on the coupon. Don't wait. This is your winter essential.
When clients ask me if I should get back together with someone, I always ask, what's going to be different this time? If there's no secondary change, if people aren't coming back to the table different internally, like if you're just coming back with a new haircut or abs, the plane's going to go down again. So you have to change the relationship dynamic. And in order to change that dynamic, people have to change. There has to be new tools and awareness, and people have to gone somewhere and come back internally.
Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your Divorce Survival Guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back. And now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact. Hey everyone, welcome back. All right, so today I have with me John Kim. You might know him as the Angry Therapist on the social medias. And he's joining me today to talk about his new book, Breakup on Purpose, a catalyst for growth. John essentially has identified 8 distinct types of breakup. In his book and in this episode, he explains how understanding which one you're going through can be a game changer and a catalyst for your growth. It's really cool stuff. The thing you should also know is that John is life partners with Vanessa Bennett, who's been on the show a few times. We have done episodes on codependence, and we have really great sort of rousing conversations about codependence together. And if you haven't heard those episodes, you should definitely go back. We also had Vanessa on the show to talk about the book that she co-authored with John called It's Not Me, It's You. John is a member of the Divorce Survival Guide family, along with Vanessa. And this is a really cool conversation. So let's get to it. Here's my conversation with John Kim. John, thank you so much for being here. It's really great to have this conversation with you about your new book.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And also just creating a dialogue about, well, not only divorce, but breakups in general.
Yeah, we do a lot of talking about divorce over here.
Can I ask you what was the catalyst for you to create this podcast? Obviously, divorce.
Or no? Yeah, well, I went through my own divorce over 15 years ago. And I had a very volatile and what I later came to realize was abusive marriage. And we ended up coming out the other side okay. It's been a very long 15-year journey, ups and downs and around and about. And I started divorce coaching about 11 or 12 years ago, okay. Sort of before it was a thing, when I was having to try to convince people that this was a viable thing, that we should heal through our divorces, that we should use this as a catalyst for growth, that we should get into our own recovery and not repeat the patterns, and that doing so along the process of the divorce would actually speed the process up and make it less contentious and expensive. And so, yeah, my podcast has been just an extension of my business, as we do, right?
Yeah.
But really, I set out years ago to change the conversation around divorce, and I've been pretty successful in doing so, and I'm pretty happy with that. So, thanks for asking. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I think it's needed. That's great.
Yeah,
Mine was I think 20 years ago, but I mean
yeah,
roughly a few years, give or take, next few years.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you have a new book out, Breakup on Purpose, and you sort of want to challenge the way that we think about breakups. So what inspired you to write this book?
When it comes to what is prescribed as far as healing from a breakup,
Mm-hmm.
no one talks about the different types of breakups, and I don't
Mm,
understand why, because it's not just one type of breakup. Like a divorce, for example, especially if you have children or co-own
hmm
property, is going to be very different than, say, a flat soda breakup or a blindsided breakup or some of these other breakups I talk about, the almost relationship breakup. They're just all different, and so there shouldn't be a blanket prescription. There shouldn't be kind of a one fits all when it comes to breakups.
And so you've identified 8 distinct types of breakups. You just named a few of them. Why? So categorizing them is why is it helpful for your healing process to categorize them in this way?
Because then you know what to prioritize, right? So, for example,
Mm,
if in your relationship, I have a breakup called the flat soda breakup, and that's like more sad than angry. That's like when feelings have changed, when it's been years. Maybe the breakup should have happened years ago. People just maybe are afraid to be alone or whatnot, but it's a mutual breakup, and
hmm
and I think something like that. You're working on grief, and that's very different than, say, like a toxic. You cheated on me, or like the soap opera breakup where you're not only healing, but you're looking over your shoulder. You're worried about your safety. Like someone doesn't want to let you go. So the priorities can definitely shift.
I see. So yeah, so it helps us prioritize where our focus in the healing should be.
Yes, and what to put weight on.
Okay, so let's like dig into each type if that's cool.
Yeah,
You want to
let's do it.
start there? Yeah. Okay, so the first one you say the big one breakup. The one you compare them all to.
Yeah, it's like the big relationship. It's usually when we're younger, and it doesn't have to be, but it's when we don't have a lot of relationship experience, so our hearts are powdered snow, and
Mm,
it's that first imprint, And I think this is
yeah.
why high school love, or like in your 20s, it felt so
Yeah.
big, so life or
Yes.
death, you know.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think the important takeaway here is when we play things back, we are playing it back from the person who then, not now. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, when you like
Yes.
go back to your elementary school and how tiny those chairs were,
Yeah.
and you're like, I sat in those chairs. But then when you think about your experience then, those chairs weren't tiny because you're playing it back through the eyes of that, whatever,
Yeah.
7-year-old. And I think we do the same with love and relationships. And so,
Mm,
when you play back the highlight reel from the magical times when you were in your 20s in New York, you're not playing it who you are today. And so there's
sure.
definitely distortion there.
hmm
And so you may feel like someone got away, or you may feel like that was the most or whatnot. But that
Yeah.
was because of the imprint at that time.
And so is that something when you say like it's sort of the one that you compare it to, like is that fair? Is that a fair comparison? Is that fair to us to or where would we put the weight on the healing in that one?
It's more about understanding. The big one was early on.
hmm
If not early on, it was an experience that was fresh and new, and that's why it was big. So
Mm.
I think the healing is the understanding of the breakup, not just you're just trying to heal from it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see.
I think all
Okay.
healing comes from understanding, if that makes sense.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. And understanding who we were at that time, right? And or what the
Yes,
expectations
yes.
were, the fantasies, like right, the dream that was shattered or so okay, number 2 you have is the blindsided breakup. Ugh.
Yes.
Yeah, I can still feel that one.
Yeah, and I don't know if any relation is I don't know if they're that you're blindsided. It can feel blindsided, but I feel
hmm
like there has been clues. I think we
That's
weren't
right.
aware, or we didn't see. Even in my marriage, I felt blindsided. She wanted a separation, which quickly turned into a divorce. But and I felt like she blindsided me. But if I really play back all the moments, there were so many times that she expressed that she was unhappy, or that
That's
I
right.
just didn't want to look at those moments, or I minimize them.
Yes, yes. I will say from, where I sit with my clients, women going through divorce, that is a huge thing, is that their husbands are always blindsided. And 9 times out of 10, they just didn't listen. They didn't hear, they didn't see. When they said
Yeah,
there's a problem
yeah,
and we got to go to therapy and they didn't want to go, like there was information there. Yeah, I'm thinking about my blindsided breakup, and but I was in my 20s and I was naive, but holy shit, was I blindsided. Oh my God, it was awful. So
yeah.
it was so bad. But you have been the blindsider?
Yes, I have been blindsided, and I have also blindsided people, to be honest. And I think with that one, it's there's a lot of emotional whiplash. There's also I mean, it's traumatic because whether it's true or not, the feeling's true. So if you didn't know, or one day you're with someone, next day you're not, there's like this panic. There's this,
Oh,
I mean, it's kind of what I'm going through now with my house being burned down. It's like one
yeah.
day I have a home and the next day I don't. There's just survival mode panic. It's like just a hit and run kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Definitely a dysregulation in the nervous system.
That's right. And we should just sort of, yeah, I would just want to take a second and acknowledge that John and Vanessa lost their home in Altadena in the recent LA fires. Yeah, talk about a blindside, right? And my heart breaks for you and everyone who lost everything, and our kids who lost their schools, and that's a huge piece of it too. So, okay, you mentioned the flat soda breakup earlier. That's number 3 here. It's mutual. It's just like, we've grown apart.
Yeah, it's like flat soda. And I feel like what's difficult with a flat soda breakup, or just a relationship where it's gone this far, is I don't know if it's repairable. I don't know if
Uh-huh.
when feelings have changed, because their issues can be worked out and
Yes.
you can learn how to fight better or fair, and tools. When you start to see your partner as a sibling or a
Mm-hmm.
son, I don't know if that's repairable. I feel like that people have drifted too far to turn back.
Yeah, right. Too much water has gone under the bridge, and you can't I don't know how, there are like tricks and tools for like getting your physical connection back and making sex dates and all of that, but like I don't know how those things ever really work when you've gotten that to that place.
Yeah, when like feelings have permanently changed, you don't see that
Yeah.
person that way anymore. Once you get there, it's I think almost impossible to ignite again.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would
Yeah,
agree. So number 4, you cheated or you left me for someone else breakup. Oof. Also been
yeah. This
there.
is the word that comes to my mind is the feeling of betrayal, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
This
Mm-hmm.
feeling devastated, obviously lots of anger.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy for this in this type of breakup to fall into victim mode, and then it's also really easy to internalize. So not just someone cheated on you, but then you ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Am I less than? Am I defective? All of
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Right. Yeah. And the healing from that is so very specific, I think, right? Because you're having to learn or sort of regain that sense that it wasn't you, that you are enough, you are okay, that this was not your deficiency, this might was there to all of the things, right? That's a long, hard healing process.
And also, infidelity is complicated, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so many layers, and
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to just say that it was because of us, or because the person is selfish or whatnot. But a lot of times, cheating happens and has nothing to even do with you or the relationship. It's
That's right.
the other person's way of numbing or hiding, or
Mm-hmm.
their own relationship or insecurity with self.
I've had many conversations with my ex-husband about this because he suffered from chronic infidelity for many, many years. And it was part of his addiction. It was an addiction for him. And would talk about how like, oh my God, it had nothing to do with you. And I was like, okay, but also it had everything to do with me, right?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Right. The impact was on me, but I
Yeah.
really have come to understand how little it actually had to do with me in the relationship, and how he would talk about the compartmentalization of his brain around it, which most addicts have, right? That's like, no, like I am having sex with other people, but like I'm coming home and I love you and I love our family, and that has
Mm.
nothing there, like but yet the impact on me, the devastation was so very real. But you're right, right? I mean, there's so much that has literally nothing to do with me. And if as the victims of the betrayal, I think a lot of our healing can actually come from really accepting that and learning, trying to understand that.
Yeah, I think that's how you kind of pull yourself out of the trenches or the slippery well. It's easy, very easy to fall into victim mode, and I think that's the most powerless state. But I also know that we are victims. Like I understand in this
Hmm.
life, I'm my house just burned down.
Yeah,
I'm a victim there.
you are a hundred
It wasn't my
percent
fault. Yeah, but if I
right. There
stay in
was
that, if I
nothing you did.
right, but
Yeah.
if I stay in that mode, and then that's kind of how I define myself, it's going to be hard to see any silver lining. It's going to be very disempowering. It's going to be,
Mhm.
depression and not being able to get out of bed, all of that stuff, right?
That's right. Right. I love that there's a distinction between being a victim, which is a very real thing,
Yeah.
and and staying in victim mode, which tends to then become a choice. We can acknowledge our victimhood. I often talk about this in terms of my own sort of healing from the emotional abuse that I suffered in my marriage and in a subsequent relationship, which was that I actually found power in identifying myself as a victim, because then I knew
Mm,
what was happening to me and I understood that it was not my fault. And then I could take that into my healing journey, right? But
yes.
I
Yes.
didn't think I could heal until I had acknowledged the fact that I was a victim of that.
So did your ex cheat on you because of his sex addiction?
It's more who knows. I mean, yes, I think it was more of his he has like a love and relationship addiction more than sex. It's the excitement and the newness and the attention seeking,
Yeah.
from his own trauma, very serious childhood traumas.
But that's a great example of creating distance by understanding the why and where they're cheating
Yes.
from. And of course, like you're saying, it has everything to do with you as far as it impacts you directly, impacts your life directly. But again, if he's struggling with the love or sex addiction, then that has nothing to do with you, although it does
Right.
impact. Yeah.
Right. Totally. Totally. And it's where I've been able to, forgive him, mainly because he has acknowledged his issues and he has gone, into treatment, and he's very, very active in his recovery journey. I can forgive him and we can have a relationship and we can be friends and we can co-parent and all of the things. Yes, I love it is the understanding. It allows me to distance from it emotionally and then heal and move forward. 100%.
At LinkedIn, we know hiring is a big deal for your small business. Sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming. LinkedIn uses data that you can't find anywhere else to give you the best candidates, all so you can feel confident you're hiring the best person for the job. And even a little hiring bliss. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
Ever met a foundation that does it all? Say hi to NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Makeup meets skincare in a bottle. It evens skin tone, blurs imperfections, and has a natural radiant finish. Plus, it's formulated with skincare ingredients to help strengthen your skin's barrier. With a newly expanded shade range of over 40 radiant shades to choose from and buildable all-day wear. NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Find your perfect match.
Would you say that understanding is step one, or do you see that steps are mixed? It's kind of a collage. It's different for the individual.
I mean, I think it's always a collage, right? Everybody has their
Yeah.
own experience. Like in 12-step work, right? There are two steps that are willingness steps, The like, I'm willing to take the next step. I'm not actually taking the step, but I'm actually willing. Right. And so I think that there's some of that where it's like, okay, I'm willing to understand this. So there's a step before the understanding, which is I am actually willing to understand. I'm willing to hear this.
Right. The intent. Yeah.
Right. Because if you're not willing and you're to understand, then you're not going to get to the understanding.
Yeah, and I also think it's okay to give yourself time before you even get to understanding. I mean, it's also okay to be angry. It's also
Yes.
it's not
Right.
okay to live there, but it's okay to go through that. Give yourself grace, allow yourself
That's
to
right.
feel.
100%. And a lot of people will say to me, like, I want the relationship with my ex-husband or with my, soon to be ex that you have with your ex. And I say, yes. And it took us 15 years and lots of pitfalls that I talk about openly so that I can help people avoid them. But also like, you're going to go through your own, and you first need to be in the feelings and separate and self-identify before you come back together. Because it's the coming back together too soon, or the understanding too quickly before you've had the anger, before you've moved through all your own experiences, that actually will allow you to have an even-footed friendship or connection or relationship, or even know if you want that. You might not want that.
Last night I was standing in the kitchen. I ran a men's group, and everyone was saying goodbye as they were going home. And the fact that they got to go home and I don't have a home was obviously kind of a trigger. So I started getting teary-eyed. And then out of nowhere, I started sobbing uncontrollably. Probably the hardest cried in a long time. And it came out of nowhere, and it almost felt like my body needed that. It was almost like I was possessed or I was purging, and I was like shit. And that didn't come from a logical place. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I think, we're talking about giving yourself permission to feel. And even before the understanding piece, and ongoing, but any kind of breakup or divorce, you got to give yourself permission to feel, because if not, usually what happens is you're going to by doing something to replace that,
That's right.
push down.
Yeah, it'll leak out the edges in some way, whether that's with like bursts of rage at your children and we don't know. Like, I think that, the way that you just described your experience, John, it's like really, it's so like you can't script when you're going to have a breakdown. You can't script when you're actually going to start to feel the feelings of the trauma. You guys lost everything. It was a sudden and extreme trauma. And, you couldn't then sit down and be like, well, now I'm going to process those feelings, right? Like, no.
Right.
Right.
And it was 2 weeks ago, and we were just been busy just trying to, put a roof over our head, kind of like survival mode. And last night it just came out of nowhere. So I think it's the same with breakups.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, moving on in your list, number 5, the soap opera breakup. A lot of my audience, I think, has this kind of a breakup, unfortunately. This is, I think we could also call this a abusive, post-separation abuse, stalking, domestic violence, right? There are all sorts of other, Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think this type of breakup is very telling of what the relationship was like, right? So like, if the person is stalking you or slashing tires, the relationship probably wasn't healthy. Like, that behavior existed in the relationship, and the fact that it's ending is only putting a black light to the relationship,
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I often say you don't really know who you married until you divorce them.
Sure. But what's tricky about this breakup is it's like a 1-2 punch, because you're not, just grieving and going through the stages of grief and taking care of yourself and all that, but you're also not, you may be worried about your safety. People may be crossing boundaries, maybe assessing your character. Like, there's this whole other thing that's happening while you're trying to grieve, and that's what makes this difficult.
And it's very difficult, and you need as much support as possible through this. And, some of them may be legal interventions, but it adds an entirely other layer. And so much of my work is working with women who are going through this kind of thing. And it's, I gotta say, I never set out for it to be. It unfortunately is just all too common right now. Okay, so then we have the almost relationship breakup. What is
Yes.
that?
This is where you meet someone and it's magical, and
Oh.
it never really turns into a relationship, so maybe it's the amazing summer, maybe it's you guys connected, and 3 months in, someone decided to end it. And I gotta say, the misconception with this is sometimes these collisions are more difficult
Yes.
than, say, a relationship that's been 7 years. Like you're gonna
Mhm.
feel more of a loss and pain with something like this than, say, the flat soda,
Yeah.
where you might have broken up without the announcement years before. And this is because secondary loss. This is because all the what ifs, the fantasies,
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
you start talking about baby names. And then also it depends, like, your struggle with your internal ticking clock, or if you feel older, or if you feel like there's not much out there, and you meet this person, like the expectation of this becoming your life, that can be very exaggerated, and then losing that, right? Doubling down,
Hmm.
losing that can be devastating.
And it's that thing where it's like you've lost something that you never got, right? You never
Yeah, it's all
had it.
fantasy.
Right. It never took root in actuality. And so yeah, it is. Oh, I have one of those. Oh, nightmare. That was
Yeah.
like 10 years of agony because there's always that like, but what if? And right,
What
the
if? Yeah.
fantasy is the relationship. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And then it's also, tied to, like, the one that got away kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
which I also think is dangerous, because if you really believe that someone got away, then whatever relationship that you're in, you could bounce early because you think there's someone else better.
Uh-huh.
I always say that the one is the one in front of you.
That's right. Okay, so to make this like so my almost relationship breakup was this like 10-year fantasy with a musician, very established, semi-famous musician who actually wrote a song about me called All the Ones That Got Away.
Oh, that's
So
hilarious.
so right. So like he is telling me in song that I'm the one that got away while also never having actually chosen to be with, like, I was like, but I didn't go anywhere. I was right here. I wanted this. What are you talking about? Right?
Yeah, that's called
Mind
gaslighting.
fuck. Right. Yes, it is. Mind fuck. Anyway, that was my almost
Who
relationship.
who ended that relationship, or why did that end?
It didn't even end because it didn't really start. It was
Oh,
like
right. It was an
we
almost.
met and it was like fireworks and it was crazy. And I went home. We were in our 20s and I went home and I broke up with my boyfriend. I was like, well, I met the person I'm going to marry, obviously.
Oh,
So
wow.
I got to bounce. And then he did not go home and break up with his girlfriend, but I didn't realize that because I was in New York and he was in Atlanta. And so there was all this like, distance. And then
Yeah.
it was the 90s. And so there were, there would be letters or there would be like a phone call. It would be, he was doing a show in New York and then I would go to the show and, we'd have these trysts in hotel rooms. I mean, it was a whole thing for many, many, many years. That was my codependence, just sort of not quite reading the room properly and
Yeah.
not really understanding what was going on. I was naive. I was young. I was, but holy shit, that man had a hold on me for a long ass time.
Do you think that relationships like, or collisions like that, where it's lightning in the bottle, where
Mm, run.
it just, the fireworks? Yeah, yeah. So do you think that that is not really healthy? Do you think that that's actually dysfunction?
Oh, 100%, right? Our body
Yeah.
doesn't know the difference between anxiety and like excitement. What I felt for him was probably my subconscious screaming, "Oh hell no, run. This is everything you recognize in terms of childhood trauma and abandonment and narcissism and like all of the things, right? In one package." But, in recognizing it, I was like, look, there it is, right? Thinking that this
Hmm.
was this
Hmm.
was everything. But yeah, I think I now know that if you have those feelings, turn around and run as fast as you can the other way. 100%.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe not that fast. Maybe walk, don't run. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
sure,
because
sure,
you
sure, sure.
could be wrong. But yeah, I generally agree. I think a lot of times we mistake dysfunction for connection, intimacy. We mistake for intensity. All of this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
also when we're in our 20s, I mean, who isn't attracted to that? Part of it's programming.
Right. Oh my
society.
God.
Um,
Absolutely.
I don't think in our 20s we would be attracted to a healthy relationship. It would feel boring.
Totally. Totally. And especially like, me with my background, let's say, right? Like my specific, whatever, growing up in the 70s in New York City with dysfunctional parents and all of the things, right? Like, of
Mhm.
course.
Also, of course, you're going to be attracted to a musician, the
Yeah.
artist, right?
Right. A good, a guitar player on stage. Like, yeah. I mean, literally, John, the guy was on stage. We locked eyes. And at the end of the show, he jumped off the stage and came and sat down and was like, hi. So it
Right.
was like,
Wow.
I mean, the number of like fantasy elements that were involved in that thing were like, it was
Oh yeah,
crazy. Right.
feeling chosen.
Yes. Right. Like,
Yeah, all of that.
oh God, at the Mercury Lounge in like 94. Like, come on. It was like the sexiest thing ever.
But
Anyway,
can I also say that
yeah.
those were actually great too, in the sense that you got to experience that. Like I don't think just because something, because there's lessons and everything, but I don't think that we're meant to rip out those chapters as well. Does that make
Oh
sense?
God, no, yes, right? Like what an experience. And
Yeah.
it is like it's a story that I get to tell and it's hilarious and it's fun. And by the way, he and I have stayed in touch and we're friends and I have my experience of that I get to own. And also, yeah, right? Like I wouldn't want to have not grown up the way that I did cuz yeah, rich life experiences, totally.
I grew up in LA, and I
Mhm.
was mostly in relationships. Vanessa grew up in New York.
Yep.
And in her 20s, she was in New York City. She was also bartending. She had a lot of excitement and dating and, just walking into a bar and, taking home the hottest guy in the room, that kind of stuff. I hear those stories and I'm like, fuck, why couldn't I have any of that? I was too busy trying to build something healthy in my 20s.
Right.
I would have rather
Oh,
had the dysfunction and all the,
oh my God,
I would
that's
have rather
hilarious.
woken up with people I didn't like, just so I knew that what that was like. Yeah.
Right, right. Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, Vanessa and I have lived very parallel lives. We talked about that. It's hilarious. Let's move on to the breakup that never ends.
Yeah, this is when people break up, they get back together.
Mm-hmm.
Some time goes by, they break up, they get back together.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, when clients ask me if I should get back together with someone, I always ask, what's going to be different this time? If there's no secondary change, if there's no change that's where it's like a internal, like if people aren't coming back to the table different internally, like if you're just coming back with a new haircut or abs, it's the plane's going to go down again. So you have to
Yeah.
change the relationship dynamic, and in order to change that dynamic, people have to change. There has to be new tools and awareness, and people have to like gone somewhere and come back internally.
I wonder what you think about this, John, because I will often say to people when they're like, should I get back together with them? I kind of say, go for it. Because what tends to happen is, in my experience anyway, with my clients and in my personal experience too, is that you do it and then you're like, oh,
You realize,
oh my God. And it becomes so clear, right?
yeah.
And so you're never left wondering. Like it closes that chapter. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I love the idea of play it out because you need to.
Mm-hmm.
But if they've gotten back together, broken up, gotten back together, if this is becoming a pattern, and
Oh,
now it's like
yes.
round
Sure.
five, I feel like are
Yes.
you stuck in a pattern that's just you're wasting time, energy, and feelings, and also you're also taking someone else hostage. People who do it for a living get back together, break up. It's
Yeah.
I think they can get stuck in a cycle that's destructive.
I think you're right. And I think that becomes, there becomes a trauma bond in there, right? Or it
Right.
it creates that trauma bond. And then you're like you are almost bonding through the breaking up and getting back together and breaking up and getting back together. It can be really toxic.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like the domestic violence cycle, the cycle of the high you get from the makeup, right?
That's right. That's
The
right.
going up and the coming down, the going back, and then if you are only attracted to that, the other thing is that when you find something stable, it's gonna you're gonna feel claustrophobic. You're gonna feel like I gotta get off this thing, when you should really stay in it, and that's how you kind of recondition, rewire yourself and your body to have a sharper radar for healthy, to swim past the breakers.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
All right, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Now available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships at Bermudan and British Registry.
A healthy relationship seems really boring when you're used to those highs and lows and the dopamine hits and the makeup sex and all of that. The healthy relationship is like,
And I would like to just highlight, because I think in our field, people are, saying, here's what healthy looks like, and you should go after healthy. But we don't talk about when healthy falls on our lap to actually, that it's hard to be in a healthy relationship.
yes.
And
Oh my God. So true.
Thing.
That's right. That's right.
And the more that you need healthy, the harder it is going to be to stay in healthy.
Say more about that. The more that you need health. Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. The more unhealthy you've been in, the more you actually need it, the harder it is for you to recognize it and hang
exactly.
in there. Right. Because it's not as fun or exciting. Totally. How did you, I'm, assuming that your relationship with Vanessa is a healthy one, right? So how did you guys, because both of you were sort of maybe perhaps primed the other way, how did you guys ride through those periods?
I think part of it is, we're both therapists, so we're both used to processing communication, trying to understand each other, being more responding instead of reacting, all of those things. But, I think it's a choice and a dedication to sit in the messy and to explore and to do it with the person, not around or at the person. And it's not easy. We've been together for 7 years, and we've, definitely have had our moments, ups and downs. And we wrote a whole book about it,
You did.
Yeah. But it's actually staying in it, working through it. And like what we're talking about now, reconditioning our bodies so that our bodies realize this is what healthy looks like. This is the norm, not what was,
Right. And this is like actual intimacy, right? Riding through these moments and asking these questions and being together in the relationship through these periods and being in open dialogue about them. That's intimacy.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because the movie trailer is that intimacy is hot sex and chocolates and all the everything that fires up our gives us dopamine. But also, intimacy is also going through the difficult, all the hard conversations. It's working out issues. It's all of that. Yeah.
Right. It's losing your house in a fire and like being a mess in the puddle on the kitchen floor and like having to deal with that. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So last but not least, number 8, that is the D word. By the way, that's
coming full circle.
The title of my book, the T word. Obviously, this is a pretty epic form of breakup. What would you say about this one?
I think this can be the most complicated, the unconscious or the conscious uncoupling, as they say. I think that is the ideal here. And I think it's something that most people can't do, right? Usually with divorce, it gets very ugly. People are not only parting ways, they're trying to destroy each other's lives. It's really sad when you hear about people using children as chess pieces and all of that. So, I think divorce it's powerful. I think it's the most important one where there has to be a lot of communication, love, compassion, and you really, especially if you have children, you have to consciously uncouple because you're going to be in each other's lives forever in
That's
some
right.
way.
That's right. And there's a choice about how you want to do that, right? It's you can either be in each other's lives as in a growth pattern or in a destruction pattern, and it's just, there's for what?
Yeah, and I think instead of saying that you're getting a divorce, it's almost like the relationship is changing. Like it's almost you're going from, intimate to now partnership as far as parents or maybe if you own a business together, you guys are business partners now.
That 100%, 100%. In your experience and work, how do you feel that healing from divorce is different from other types of breakups?
I think there's generally speaking more at stake. I think the untangling is a lot more complicated. When you take something like a flat soda breakup where it's mutual and feelings have complete, there's almost like there's more of an acceptance. With divorce, usually one person doesn't want it. Usually one person is not willing to sign papers. So I think the tug of war rope, the pulling on that is a lot stronger.
A lot of my listeners and clients are divorcing people who are abusive, emotionally abusive, or have narcissistic tendencies, or create a lot of conflict throughout the process. Do you address any of those complexities in your book?
I don't get into like narcissism. I don't get into very specific type of. I do more broad strokes. The theme of my book is using any breakup as a catalyst for your growth, right?
Yes, right.
But on top of that, kind of dissecting the different types of breakups, and so anything more than that is going to make the book complicated, and muddy, and
Yeah.
like John. Now you're bird walking. Get back to your point. So yeah, I don't get into personality disorders now.
Do you what advice do you have for people going through that outside of the book?
Number one, I would say to create a space where you're processing. So that would be with the therapist, maybe group work. If your ex was an alcoholic or a sex addict or anything, under the umbrella of addiction, maybe Al-Anon, you got to process. I don't.
That's
you
right.
can't really process by yourself. I mean, you could digest information, you could have revelations, but to really thoroughly process, you do like actively need someone else. And also, I don't think your friends are the best idea to process with.
No, they're not. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not. And I think the group work, because I run groups for this, and I will say it is so powerful to sit in a group of people who even online, mine are online and virtual, like to just sit through with a group of people who just get it. They just get it. The healing, it's so transformative and so quick when you realize that, oh shit, it's not me. Oh my God. The playbook is so complete. It's really healing.
Yeah, we're not meant to do it alone.
No.
We're kind of creatures who grow and heal through each other. And so that's why group work is really powerful. But that would be my greatest advice is not isolate and try to do this alone.
Okay, so the title of your book, Breakup on Purpose, it suggests intentionality. Yeah, so what does that mean when you talk about breaking up on purpose?
To break up with an intention, to not be a walking reaction, try to understand as well as being understood. Yeah, and to not just allow yourself to fall into victim mode. So there are greater things happening that you probably can't see now, but when you look back, you'll connect dots. And so to believe in something greater than what's happening as well. So all of that kind of, I think, falls under intentional,
Yes.
and maybe things from the universe that not from you that are aligned with intention. It's like right now I'm going through this rebuilding from this fire, and although it's not a breakup, it has all the characteristics of a blindsided breakup or a divorce, where it's going to change my life. There's going to be everything that was before this fire and everything after. Right. And I need to rebuild with intention. I need to connect back to self. I need to explore, to redefine. We're thinking about, moving to Costa Rica for a year, right? So that's intentional, and there's reasons why. And so instead of just running or having a reaction to this, sitting with it, allowing yourself to feel everything. It's everything that someone goes through when they're going through an expired relationship.
There's something about almost everyone I know who lost their homes in this fire, and there are a lot of them, that it has given them pause on so many of so many aspects of their life, but a lot of it in terms of things, right? They say like, I don't need to rebuild all of this stuff. I don't need everything that I had. And there's so much mourning to be done in the loss of so many things. But there seems to be, from the friends that I've spoken to, just such a incredible perspective shift.
I'm Marie Kondoing my life now.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's sort of what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah. I own 2 pairs of jeans.
Right.
2 pair of jeans I own today they're expensive and they're very specific, but I just own 2. And I'm kind of like taking that mindset to everything, whether it's my work, it's my time. If it doesn't bring me joy, I don't want to just collect things anymore.
Right.
There has to be meaning, Yeah. So it makes you reevaluate, which also breakups make you do as well.
John, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you and connect with you about your book. Where can people find your book and connect with your work?
My book is wide, so Target, Amazon, wherever you buy books, across social at The Angry Therapist.
Thank you so much, John. It's such a pleasure. It's so great to connect with you.
Thank you for having me and helping me create this kind of conversation.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Owen, self-help author with 19 translations of my books, global keynote speaker, and life coach. My podcast, Make Some Noise, has been serving up self-help in a simple-to-digest way for the last decade. The topics brought in each episode are practical and easy to implement around topics such as working through fears that keep you stuck, different modalities of therapy, managing your negative self-talk, and more. We bring you guest experts, solo episodes, and I even coach listeners on the air around relatable struggles. I also do my best to weave my sense of humor into some heavy topics because, let's face it, life can be pretty hard, and it's so much better when we can have some fun while walking through our challenges. Whether you're seasoned in personal development or just starting out, Make Some Noise podcast will help you become the best version of yourself, the person you're proud of when you look in the mirror and show up in your life. Simply search Make Some Noise with Andrea Owen wherever you listen to your podcasts.